because I think it's a confidence booster. This is one of those things that kind of tries to get them on the path to where they were last year. They understand they're not the same team, but a win like this can get them feeling like, hey, we were the best team in the league a year ago. A lot of those guys are still on that team, and this can be the win that can turn back the clock and remind them who they used to be.
Well, we're going to be hearing from Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Warriors, in moments from Oracle. Hopefully it's spicy. That's the kind of sound that we prefer here on Game Time, presented by State Farm. But Draymond Green suffered an injury here tonight, and it was a factor for the Warriors, stepping on the foot of DeMarcus Cousins. If you missed it, here it is. And you can see him wincing and yelping and hobbling around and then going down. He would not return, and he looks to be in a lot of pain.
Yeah, I'm looking at the injury, and I'm a little worried because I didn't really see it turn or anything. If I would have seen like a foot turn, I'm like, okay, sprained ankle.
Right.
Or like
They're calling it an ankle sprain, by the way, the Warriors.
Okay. Well, I'm not as worried because at first I thought it was the foot. There's a lot of different bones in the foot, and you can go a lot of different ways with that. If it's simply an ankle sprain, then he'll be okay, and that's not as much to worry about.
Well, did it look like either like he jammed it, or it was like not an outside roll but an inside roll?
They call it an inverted sprain.
Yeah, yeah.
And as I'm with B. Wood, I didn't think it was an ankle sprain. I know that's what they're calling it, but I was looking at his foot being the problem, the issue here. And yes, they can call it that, but let's look at it, and hopefully it's not more of a foot issue with a broken bone or a bruised bones, because those are the things that take more time to heal later.
Interesting. And you know, Brett, you guys played, like I said, a combined 27 years in the NBA. A lot of times a guy will sprain an ankle and you don't see the pain like that. You don't see the, like a part of your body is under attack. A lot of times it's an ankle roll.
How'd the noise go again?
And it's sore. They at home appreciate the replay here live. But you know what I mean? I'm concerned based on his reaction to that when it immediately happened. Does that concern you a little bit as well?
Yeah, because he's not one of the guys that's going to roll around in pain more of the time. He's tough. He's tough for his team, and he does a good job of playing through pain. And him to roll around on the floor in front of his bench and take the play off, that means that it's a lot going on in that injury.
Yeah, when you see somebody like Draymond that's known to be a tough guy, a guy that has played through injuries, a guy that his whole persona is, I'm tougher than you.
Right.
When you see that guy go down and start rolling around in pain, that lets you know it's a serious injury. It needs to be treated very seriously, and I'm sure Golden State will take that into account.
All right, guys, let's take it to Oakland right now. Steve Kerr is meeting the media. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're having some audio issues. We're going to back it up, get the audio right, and replay that for you here in just a moment. Steve Kerr can't be happy with what happened here tonight. Again, the Warriors just dropped their third consecutive loss to the Rockets head up this year.
Right, and that's somebody you could possibly see in the Western Conference Finals. The Rockets have been trending upward coming into this downward stretch, and we'll see if Draymond is out. That is something that's going to be a real problem because he's their defensive dynamo. He's their leader. He's their tough guy. He's the guy that gets them through the lulls and the drags of the season. And I pray that he's healthy.
And Steve Kerr's not going to be happy with the way that the Golden State Warriors allowed the role players to really step up tonight. You understand Chris Paul is good enough to get his 23 points, but when you look at P.J. Tucker with 18 points, then you look at Gerald Green with 10 points, Kenneth Faried 20 and 10, how good of a pickup has he been? I mean, you got to just shout out him just for his effort. And, Dante, you know how hard it is when you're on the bench and you're buried to stay focused on the task at hand. He was left for dead in Brooklyn. He's able to come over here, help his team, and have a game like he had tonight. Since he's been there, he's just brought them tremendous energy.
Well, when you see Kenneth Faried doing what he's doing, it's not a great look, right, for the teams that he was with before. This guy was literally banished, not playing a single minute, and now he's a 20-10 guy and a 15-7 guy. And
he was literally on his way out of the NBA.
Yes.
But that's what shows about the NBA. It's not about you can't play for every team. It's about the right fit. And if you find a team that you're fit for, that shows what you can produce and what you can get out there on a nightly basis. He's found a team that needs energy, that needs somebody that can play without the ball in their hands, that can rebound at a high level, that can give energy to other guys. So I'm happy for him that he's found a landing spot that he can continue his career at.
And talk about how Mike D'Antoni is using him to get the best out of him relative to maybe how some other coaches didn't use him and didn't get the best out of him.
The unique thing about Mike D'Antoni is he's not a guy that likes to hear about your faults. He doesn't want to hear about what you can't do. He wants to hear about what you can do. And then he's going to highlight what you do well. And you can see how he has morphed the system a little bit. When Chris Paul came in, he allowed him to take more mid-range jumpers than other players in the past. He wants you to play to what your strengths are, what you do best on the basketball court. A lot of coaches, they only know how to coach within a box. And if you go outside that box, they don't know how to reel it back in. Mike D'Antoni's done a great job of getting the most out of Kenneth Faried by letting him go outside the system.
All right, guys, good stuff. And we have the audio fixed with the Steve Kerr post-game interview, so here it is.
You got back into the game, though, tonight, and actually had a little bit of a lead there. What then happened that turned it back toward them in your mind?
Same thing that was happening all game. Poor transition defense. That will be a major point of emphasis for us when we practice next. We're just not finding shooters. We're not protecting the rim. You know, Capella gets a wide open dunk. Maybe it was Faried. I can't remember. A lot of three-point shots in transition for them. And then sloppy execution, forgetting plays, you know, not really understanding what we're trying to accomplish. So we got to get our minds right, you know, to play every night because this is what you face in this league. A lot of great teams.
Your new starting lineup now, I think this is their 11th game together. They played about 140 minutes or so, and I think they're slightly in the negative. Why do you think that kind of five-star lineup just hasn't really taken off yet?
I think the lineup has been good at times. I just think there have been several games like this one where we got off to really slow starts, and we got to just be ready to play right from the beginning. But small sample size at this point. You know, for lineup combination stuff. So we'll watch the tape and try to get better, try to start better.
Steve Cousins specifically was minus 17, by far the worst plus-minus on your team. Did you think he was being attacked, and how did you think that whole thing went defensively attacked?
Yeah, I mean, that's Houston always does that every game. You know, they run a million pick and rolls, and they try to put the five-man in the pick and roll quite a bit, and so we didn't do a great job as a team. It's a five-man grouping that has to defend, so we got picked apart pretty well on that. So we'll have to do better.
Steve, kind of going back to the 15-0 run, start the game. You didn't call a timeout to break it up at all. What was the thought process there, and trying to let the guys kind of figure it out on their own, or?
I'm not sure what I would have told them. Take a timeout and say, run a play, get back on defense, don't turn it over. It's, you know, usually you take a timeout. If you see something, you want to make an adjustment. There's no adjustment to make when it's 15-0 and everybody's out there running in mud. So we got back in the game. So, you know, I thought Jordan Bell came in, did a nice job for us tonight. Hasn't been in the rotation much lately, so I was very proud of him for staying ready. And but you know, it wasn't enough. We just never had the traction. Even when we had the lead, it didn't feel like we played fundamentally sound basketball.
DeMarcus, I think, has 6 turnovers, and he's been pretty inefficient maybe the last 7 or so games. Do you see the frustration kind of building with how he's playing offense?
Sure, yeah, he's frustrated. I mean, think about what DeMarcus has been through, you know, with the year-long injury and the frustrating free agency. And so it's not an easy thing. Very difficult injury to come back from. And, you know, after first couple of weeks, the excitement, the adrenaline, you know, that's the wear and tear begins, and that's where you really got to be able to rely on execution. So we'll work with him, and he can do better. He knows that. He's definitely frustrated, but you know, he cares. He's an emotional guy, and wants nothing more than to win and compete. And so we got to help him along, and he's got to help himself along as well.
Did you move him out to the perimeter specifically in the second half? Looked like you were going to him on a low post early on. Didn't seem to work out. And was Cousins placed on the perimeter on purpose in that second half?
Not really. I mean, that's, you know, we have different ways we can play, different actions, different plays. So I thought we got back into the game late first half with playing faster, playing more open. We didn't do anything specifically in the third quarter to try to keep him on the perimeter. We're just playing.
Steve, is Draymond set for X-rays or an MRI?
I have no idea. You know. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Well, certainly a salty Steve Kerr, and here is what the Rockets did with Boogie Cousins, getting him in pick-and-roll scenarios. B. Wood, break it down.
Well, right there you see Boogie's very, very far back, and then they get a switch. Gerald Green takes advantage of that, goes for the jumper. Then they end up giving the offensive rebound to Kevin Free, who plays with a lot of energy. Once again, Boogie in the pick and roll. They're using his man. Capella sets the screen. Chris Paul comes off, reads the defense, gets the switch. Now he knows it's time to dance. Boogie cannot check him. Pulls up for three. Nice jumper in Boogie's face. Chris Paul still running the offense. You see him, he's motioning. Whoa, 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 whoa. We want to make sure we involve Boogie Cousins in every pick and roll. We're coming off, but no, we're not getting who we want. There we go. We're getting to the side pick and roll. We're getting the matchup we want. They are exploiting the weakness in the Golden State defense, and that is Boogie Cousins being way too far back in the screen rolls. And when he switches, he's not effective as far as guarding other players on the perimeter. And so that is something that Golden State Warriors, it's good they're seeing it now. This is what they're going to see in the playoffs. This is the chink in the armor. This is the only way you can basically combat the fact that they have this group of all-stars put together. Go at the weakest one. The weakest one defensively is Boogie Cousins.
See, they always struggled with pick and roll, and Boogie Cousins was his only weakness going into this, playing for the Golden State Warriors. They always switched everything. They had perimeter defenders. They had guys that could guard and rebound. Now, when you have Boogie Cousins in there, he's playing back, and when he takes a switch, now it's ISOs going on. And then CP plays well in the ISO, and he can make plays for others, or he can get his own bucket. But then on the offensive glass, since they started Kenneth Faried and Clint Capella, then now it's an offensive rebound fest, and they took advantage of that tonight.
All right, so how can this be fixed? Can it be fixed? Is DeMarcus Cousins too heavy-footed to do the athletic movements it takes to guard on the perimeter like this? Is it just you shrug your shoulders, or is there something they can do to fix that?
There's definitely things you can do to fix it. First of all, they can have him be up at the higher level at the screen. That's one thing that, as a big, I hated that. I love to be back in the paint.
That's the issue.
But I had good coaches like Rick Carlisle. They'd be like, Brendan, you have to be up at the level of the screen. That is something that Boogie Cousins can do. It's something that he doesn't want to do. It's going to be new to him, but he has 25, 24 games or so to get used to it. He has to be up at the level of the screen, and that way they can maybe hedge and go under, or if they do have a switch, he's closer to the ball, he can be into the man, and then they can get more help.
The issue with that is that goes against all of their defensive principles.
Yes.
They like switching. They like making you be a one-on-one team. And Houston has the ability to be that team. And now Boogie has to play defense. Now he has some real responsibilities on the ball defense in the pick and roll. He can't go to a down because CP coming downhill in the pick and roll made it dangerous tonight. So now they have to find a way, unlike the years that they've won championships with, for a different type of pick and roll defense. And we got to see if they can make that adjustment.
And that's the beauty of what Golden State used to do. They used to switch every pick and roll and force you to play one-on-one with guys that could really defend. That's where Draymond is so good. They put Draymond at the 5. He's switching on your point guards. He's sliding his feet. With Boogie Cousins, you have to adjust your defense, and this is where there's a lot of guards in that Western Conference. When you talk about Dame Lillard, when you talk about Russell Westbrook, all the rest of these teams, they're seeing what happened tonight. And if they get into a playoff series with the Golden State Warriors, best believe they're going to involve Boogie Cousins in every middle pick and roll, side screen and roll that they can, because they want to take advantage of that matchup. And especially when you have Steph and Boogie in the screen and roll, now you can put their two worst defenders in a pick and roll situation and force them to have to make a decision. Are they going to switch it or are they not? We can attack either guy.
And you think about it, Golden State struggled defending the pick and roll without James Harden, who's an awesome pick and roll player. Steve Kerr did say, quote, about DeMarcus Cousins, quote, he's definitely frustrated on that 3 that Paul hit. You saw him, kind of do that and hang his head a little bit. No, I will not repeat that body gesture for you, Brendan, because I know you wanted it. DeMarcus Cousins was a team low, -17 in the plus-minus. Steve Kerr also said that poor transition defense was a big factor here tonight. I just want both of you guys to talk about how annoying that is to practice. Is it annoying to practice? Because the next time the Warriors practice, they're going to be working on poor transition defense. Is that going to be a bad day in the gym for the Warriors?
Well, the thing is, in today's NBA, you don't practice for so much.
Right.
So it's not like back in the 90s or even back when old fellas like ourselves first came into the league. A bad transition day means you're going to have transition drills and practice all day long. Now this means they're going to have a really tough film session where they basically call guys out who's not getting back, who didn't have good floor balance, where was the transition lost at. That's more of what it's going to be. I don't think the Golden State Warriors at the point in the season where they're going to have a very tough practice where they just blow it out.
Let's keep it real. Transition is about communication and effort. And that's where you get better in transition defense. You can point it out on the screen and say, you know what, you weren't back, you didn't get where you were supposed to, you didn't talk and communicate and get to the man that you were. But they had a lot of shooters out on the floor tonight, and they had a lot of guys that played extremely hard and played with a lot of effort and a lot of heart. That's what took them out of the game tonight.
So this has been an amazing Saturday. One game still going on right now. It is Dallas and Utah. The second half just underway. Utah with a tiny lead over a Mavericks team with no Luka Doncic. But of course, the Jazz went double OT with OKC last night. Highlights on the way.
Little In-N-Out burger there.
Yeah, Bogdanovich to the cup, and the Pacers winning in D.C. They just keep on winning. And D'Angelo Russell on his 23rd birthday went off. So did Kemba Walker, who's a battle of the point guards in Charlotte. And also, you had the Detroit Pistons against the Miami Heat in a race for 8 game. And Blake Griffin, the hoop and the harm. And he had a big night. We're coming right back.